Welcome to today's explainer. Ever wonder what actually separates a standard online tutorial from a top-tier professional-grade cybersecurity masterclass? Well, we are stepping right behind the curtain today to unpack the ultimate blueprint for elite cyber education. We're going to look at a fascinating, highly structured framework that is specifically designed to take a student from a complete, absolute beginner all the way to a freelance professional and do it within a 30-day roadmap. Let's dive in and see exactly how this education is built from the ground up. Right off the bat, let's talk about the massive authority it takes to effectively teach this kind of material. To build a true masterclass, the foundation goes way beyond just knowing how to code. It requires a really intense blend of perspectives. We're talking about 2 solid decades of diverse experience here, everything from ethical hackers who are actively attacking systems, to SOC analysts monitoring the front lines, all the way to digital forensics experts investigating the aftermath of those breaches. Throw in cloud security and malware analysis, and you get this uniquely holistic view. That is the exact caliber of expertise required to deliver a comprehensive 2026 level masterclass. To see how a student makes that massive leap from beginner to competent pro, we'll be exploring 5 distinct phases today. We'll start with the masterclass blueprint, move into foundation and theory, jump into practical application and labs, tackle career and freelance prep, and finally wrap up with future scope and assessment. All right, kicking things off with our first section, the masterclass blueprint. Before we can really dissect a single lesson, we have to pinpoint exactly where it fits into the grand architecture of the whole curriculum. We aren't just looking at the broad strokes of day 1 here. We are zooming specifically into day 19. According to this roadmap, by week 3, the student is already deep into penetration testing. And on day 19, the entire focus shifts to a highly specific, totally critical skill, password cracking. It's vital to realize that a true masterclass doesn't just randomly assign these topics. It builds a very sequential, step-by-step journey, where day 19 relies heavily on the foundational knowledge built over the previous 18 days. Now, this is where it gets absolutely staggering. Just look at the sheer scale required for one single day of learning. There are 27 specific requirements, categorized into beginner theory, practical action, and professional career components. A standard lesson might just show you how to crack a password and call it a day. But this blueprint mandates 27 distinct elements to ensure absolute mastery. And crucially, all of this incredibly complex, multi-layered information has to be delivered in simple English. The real hallmark of true expertise is taking those 27 complex components and making them accessible to a total beginner without watering down any of the professional value. Moving right along to Section 2, Foundation and Theory. Any truly elite lesson has to start by engaging the student with a solid professional introduction. But honestly, more importantly than that, it has to immediately explain the why. Why does password cracking actually matter in the broader context of cybersecurity? If you don't establish that relevance right away, adult learners simply won't engage. It's a fact. The blueprint strictly dictates that before you even touch the how, you must absolutely cement the why. And those complex theoretical concepts, they can't just be left hanging in the abstract. They have to be anchored in reality. This means leveraging real-world examples, visual explanations, and text-based diagrams. This multimodal approach is exactly how you make abstract algorithms and cryptographic hashes actually understandable. You tie them to a real-world data breach, you visually map out the flow of how a hash works, and you lay it out in clear diagrams. That's how you guarantee the foundational theory really clicks for the learner. Let's shift gears into Section 3, Practical Application and Labs. This is where the curriculum bridges the gap between passive and active learning, and it does it beautifully. First, you get the practical demonstration, an instructor-led session showing you the exact process, like maybe running a brute force tool live. But because just watching someone else hack isn't actually learning, it immediately pivots to active execution via a live lab. The blueprint absolutely requires an environment where the beginner can safely practice the exact techniques they just saw, turning that passive theory into active muscle memory. But you're not just thrown to the wolves in that live lab. The instructor provides essential guardrails. It's not just about getting the software to work. It's about operating like a seasoned pro. The blueprint mandates teaching industry best practices and establishing a true professional workflow. And perhaps even more importantly, it requires highlighting common mistakes and specific security tips. Because let's face it, learning what not to do when handling these sensitive tools is honestly just as critical as learning what to do. Which brings us to Section 4, Career and Freelance Prep. Listen, a premium lesson doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It directly aligns everything you learn with industry-standard certification knowledge. This masterclass specifically targets the requirements for major exams. We're talking foundational certs like Security Plus, intermediate ethical hacking ones like the CEH and PNPT, all the way up to elite offensive credentials like the OSCP, and even high-level management exams like the CISSP. By tying a Day 19 lesson on password cracking directly to these specific certifications, you aren't just learning a cool party trick, you are actively studying for the exact credentials that HR departments are desperately looking for. And since not everyone has the exact same career goal, the curriculum actually splits to cater to dual paths, traditional employment and independent work. If you're going corporate, it includes targeted interview questions and a super clear career roadmap. But for the entrepreneurial folks, it totally shifts to a freelancer's perspective, offering actual client project examples. This shows the learner exactly how to package their brand new password cracking skills as a standalone service they can sell directly to clients. Plus, the blueprint explicitly requires the inclusion of accurate salary information. Let's be real, cybersecurity can be an incredibly grueling field to study. By Day 19, your initial excitement has probably been replaced by a strong desire for a nap. Integrating real-world salary data and freelance rates directly into the lesson serves a vital psychological purpose. It's a game changer for keeping you motivated. It grounds all that hard work in a tangible financial reality, reminding you exactly what this entire roadmap is building toward. Finally, we hit Section 5, Future Scope and Assessment. Tech moves incredibly fast, right? Well, cybersecurity moves even faster. To ensure this education doesn't become obsolete the second the lesson ends, the curriculum integrates serious future-proofing elements. The instructor is required to discuss AI tools directly related to password cracking, like how machine learning is actively being used to generate smarter word lists. They also have to analyze the latest relevant cyber attacks and discuss the overall future scope of the field. It's all about teaching you not just where the industry is today, but exactly where it's heading tomorrow. So how do we know if the information actually stuck? The assessment model here is incredibly rigorous and it scales dynamically. It starts off with simple homework, then steps up to a robust 20-question quiz to test your recall, advances to a mini project for limited application, and eventually culminates in a full-blown project. This multi-tiered strategy ensures that by the time Day 19 wraps up, you haven't just memorized some facts, you've actually proven your capability to execute complex tasks from start to finish. To wrap it all up, the educational blueprint dictates a really clean tie-off. A comprehensive summary distills the entire 30 to 60-minute lesson down to its core takeaways. Plus, properly cited references absolutely must be provided. In the cyber world, trust but verify is practically a religion. Providing references gives you the resources to dig deeper and prove that the curriculum is completely grounded in factual, verifiable industry data. Looking at this massive 27-point blueprint for just one single day of learning, it is honestly staggering. We've seen exactly how elite education weaves together deep theory, active labs, and real-world career strategy, but it leaves us with one critical question to think about. Do you have the discipline to navigate a curriculum this rigorous for 30 consecutive days? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.